Hello learners, I am Dr. Aparna Samudra and I welcome you back to our course of Environmental Economics. We have been talking about sustainable development in the last few lectures. We have already understood the concept of sustainable development. We have also understood the distinction between weak and strong sustainability. This lecture today is going to be on the sustainable development rules. What are we going to study today? We will be talking about 3 rules with respect to sustainability. One is the Hartwig-Solow rule, then we have a London School of Thought, and then Daley's operational principles. So let us start with Hartwig-Solow rule. The Hartwig-Solow rule has been named after the economist John Hartwig and Robert Solow. When we talked about weak sustainability in the previous lecture, we have seen the views of Robert Solow with respect to weak sustainability. This particular rule addresses the issue of sustainability in the context of natural resource depletion and the economic growth. That is, it is comparing the growth of the depletion of natural resources as well as it is talking about the rate of the economic growth. What does it say? It says that future generations will be at least as well off as present generation when a society's capital stock is maintained at the constant level. That is, it's saying that we will be able to sustain or give the benefits to the future generations if the society's capital stock is maintained at the constant level, even though the present generation is utilizing this natural capital. The rule states that the consumption levels may be kept constant over time if the rent derived from the consumption of natural resources is duly reinvested in man-made capital. That is, the levels of consumption of the present generation as well as the future generations will be constant if the extra income or the rent which is deriving from the consumption of these natural resources is duly reinvested back in the man-made capital. So, the income earned by the consumption of the natural resources, if it is reinvested back in the man-made capital, we will be able to take care of the constant consumption levels. So, it is stipulating that the revenue generated from depleting natural resources should be invested in productive capital such as physical infrastructure, human capital or technological innovation. So, whatever we are earning by way of use of natural resources, and these natural resources are depleting in this process. So, revenue which is generated from the use of natural resources should be then reinvested back in what? In the productive capital, which can be physical capital, which can be human capital, or which can be technological innovation. To explain this rule, we can understand this diagram where we have taken time and we have also taken total capital stock. What do we see here? There are 2 types of curves. One is Km, other is Kn. Kn is basically the stock of natural capital. Km indicates the stock of man-made capital. What do we see here? We see here that this capital stock of natural capital is declining over time because we are using this natural capital. But the capital man-made stock is increasing over a period of time. So, the stock of natural capital is slowly falling towards zero. because we are using this, and it is not, you cannot replace all the natural stock that we have, but the stock of man-made capital is increasing over a period of time. So basically this rule is saying that if we are able to increase, if this Km is greater than Kn, then we will have a sustainability. Or in other words, it is talking about weak sustainability. That is, the natural capital is perfect substitute to man-made capital. So the only condition is that you have to maintain the total stock of capital. Now what is the importance of this Hartwig-Solow rule? First, taking into consideration the sustainable development definition, this rule also talks about intergenerational equity. That is, it emphasizes the maintenance of intergenerational equity by saying that whatever benefits we are deriving from the depletion of natural resources be reinvested in other forms of capital. Therefore, it says this will ensure that the future generations also have access to at least as much capital as the current generations have. The second importance of Hartwig-Solow rule is with respect to sustainability. It is saying that we have to reinvest resource revenues in other forms of capital. So by doing that, the value of produced capital, such as infrastructure and human capital, should be maintained or increased over time to compensate the natural resources. So by doing this, long-term sustainable economic growth can be achieved. Why? Because you are not letting the stock of capital fall. One natural capital stock is declining, that depletion of natural capital stock is being compensated by increase or maintaining the produced capital, which is infrastructure or the man-made capital and the human capital, ensuring a long-term sustainability. A very important aspect of Hartwig-Solow rule is the mitigation of resource curse. Now, what is this resource curse? Resource curse is the phenomenon which is generally seen in resource-rich countries. It says that those countries or those areas or those regions which are very rich in mineral resources, in natural mineral resources, what happens is that there is excessive reliance on resource extraction. This resource extraction not only leads to natural capital depletion, but it also leads to economic instability, corruption and social unrest. Why? Because so many times we acquire the land of the indigenous communities in those areas just because we want to extract those natural resources. Also, what happens is corruption takes place, bureaucracy takes place, and this leads to economic instability. So that is what is called as resource curse. Hartwig-Solow rule can be used to mitigate the effects of this resource curse. Why? Because you're investing the resources, revenues which we earn by these resources, and these countries then can build up more resilient and diversified economies. So if we are earning revenues by extraction of resources in these economies or in these regions, and then the revenue earned from these regions is then reinvested in the formation of man-made capital or the human capital of these regions, the mitigation of the resource curse phenomena takes place. Now let us go to the limitations or the criticism of this rule. The first assumption and limitation is the criticism is with respect to assumptions and limitations. As we have seen in weak and strong sustainability, this is a rule which is following weak sustainability, wherein it is saying that your natural and man-made capital are perfect substitutes. But it may not hold true in so many cases. We cannot substitute natural capital by a machine. So the whole assumption on which this rule is based gets violated in most of the cases. The second criticism of this rule is with respect to practical implementation challenges. Particularly, the implementation is very challenging in resource dependent economies where there are competing interests and political pressures to maximize short-term resource revenues. So as we have just seen the case of resource curse, those economies which are rich in minerals, and if we are going by Hartwig-Soro rule, we are saying that whatever revenue we earn by use of these natural resources should be reinvested back in order to get human capital or man-made capital. But in reality, when we try to implement it, there are competing interests which are going on, and also there are political pressures because they intend to have short-term resource revenue gain rather than thinking about the future. So even though it looks very good on picture, but practically it becomes very difficult to reinvest the revenues earned from natural capital back to the formation of man-made capital. Then another criticism is inadequate consideration of non-market values. This rule is primarily focusing on maximizing economic returns and does not take into account the non-market value associated with natural resources. For example, cultural significance and ecosystem services. See, we do not evaluate or we do not economically value the cultural significance of a particular area or of a particular ecosystem, because it is not an economic activity, but it is a very important aspect of sustainability, particularly with respect to indigenous communities. So many indigenous communities lose their cultural significance, they lose their cultural identity when we see exploitation of the natural resources on those areas. So what value do we have to give so for such cultural significance is not accounted for in Hartwig-Soro rule. Then this rule also does not talk about environmental externalities. These we are going to discuss in detail in the subsequent lectures. Whatever negative or positive effects come to the third party because environmental resources are used, those are not accounted for in case of Hartwig-Soro rule. So that is a limitation or the criticism of Hartwig-Soro rule. So after understanding the Hartwig-Soro rule, let us now take case of the second school of thought, which is the London School of Thought with respect to sustainability. This particular school of thought is based on David Pearce's seminal work, World Without End, Economics, Environment and Sustainable Development. Now David Pearce was associated with London School of Economics, and he said that he did this work, World Without End, Economic, Environment and Sustainable Development. What did he say? According to his school of thought, there are variety of natural resources. That is, natural resources are not only of one type, we all know. And he says that the sustainable development necessitates the preservation and enhancement of natural capital stock. That is, we only cannot say that your natural capital stock, if depleted, can be substituted by man-made capital. What this says, school of thought says, is we need to preserve this natural capital. Not only preserve, we have to make efforts to enhance this natural capital. Then only we can achieve the sustainable development. So this school of thought basically says that we have to ensure that the quantity of natural capital remains either stable or increases over a period of time. Unlike the Hartwig-Soro rule, where we saw that the capital stock was declining over a period of time, it says that we cannot let the quantity of natural capital to decline over a period of time. We need to ensure that this quantity of natural capital remains either stable or it increases over a period of time. Now, this criterion when we talk about London School of Thought, this criterion is typically evaluated through what is called as a cost-benefit analysis, wherein we are assessing alterations in the natural capital stock. That is, if we bring certain changes in the natural capital stock, then because of these alterations, what will be the cost associated and what will be the benefit which is associated with it. So let us understand this with an example. For instance, there is a reduction of natural capital stock, for example, by deforestation for the purpose of agriculture or the purpose of residence. So if there is a forest land and we see deforestation in that forest area because we want to undertake agriculture or for the purpose of residential. Now there may be certain benefits in terms of utilizing the land more productively, or there may be certain disadvantages of deforesting that land. So, or another instance, let us say, what is the cost of maintaining clean environment, atmosphere, yield certain benefits, while there are costs associated with environmental pollution which serve as a deterrent. So, every action that we do on natural capital will have certain cost or which will have certain benefits. For example, as we just saw, that if we are destroying land or deforestation is leading to greater agricultural productivity, but on the other hand, it is creating certain environmental damage, it is creating atmospheric damage, or it is destroying the wild animals are getting dislocated because of that deforestation, changing the whole biodiversity of that area. So we have to, according to this school of thought, we have to do a cost-benefit analysis. So, he says sustainability is consistent with maintaining and improving the natural capital. Now, let us see this with the help of a diagram. Now, as you can see on this graph, on the y-axis, we are measuring benefits and cost of the use of the stock of natural resources. X-axis is measuring the usage of the stock of natural resources. That is, if you are using any type of natural assets, because we are doing a cost-benefit analysis, there will be certain benefits and there will be certain costs. The C curve, the cost curve C, is moving from 0 upwards. B represents the benefit curve. It is also moving upwards and then it starts declining. So the cost curve C shows that the stock of natural capital increases. There is increasing cost in the form of foregone benefits for not conserving the environment. That is, as and as we start using the natural capital stock, the cost of the use of this resource keeps on increasing. Why? Because with every use of natural asset, there is some foregone benefits of not conserving this environment. So if you are, let us say, cutting down trees for agriculture, there we are using the land for the purpose of agriculture. So there is a cost associated by cutting down the trees. So that is represented by the C curve. Okay. Then the second curve is the B curve, which is the benefit curve. It shows the benefits to users and non-users of natural environment and the stock of natural capital. That is, anybody who is now utilizing this stock of natural capital, probably they may be the users, they may be not also the non-users. For them, this is shown by the B curve. So as you can see, this C is the cost curve, B is the benefit curve. Now moving forward, what does this cost benefit say? If you can see, there is a gap between the B curve and the C curve. The B curve is rising from the origin. It is cutting the C curve at point A. means at this point A, we are seeing that the cost associated with the usage of natural resources is equal to the benefits associated with the use of natural resources. Thereafter, point A, the costs are more and the benefits are less. So this is really a crisis situation. That is, we are keep on damaging the natural resources, but the costs are more and the benefits are less. Now, what is the optimum? If we see the area between, let us say, 0 to A, this particular curve, this line which you see, D to E, DE, the difference DE, and associated with that, you have Kn, which we call as the optimum stock of environment. Why? Because in the whole area of this curve, this DE is the highest. Before that, this is low. It becomes highest, the gap between cost and benefit is the highest at DE. So, when we talk about DE, what is happening is, here benefits are way more than the cost. So, it's the highest gap. Okay, so the highest gap is seen in the region of D to E. So, DE we say is the optimum capital stock of capital. If the difference is less than DE, if the difference is less than DE, then there is a need for improvement in the environmental quality. Why? Because if you see any point, let us say this point, let us say this is the point, let it be KE. What is happening here is that the benefits are of course more than the cost, but then if we further use the environment, what is happening is benefits are increasing. So this means that for any economy, if the use of the natural resource is also leading to greater benefits and lesser foregone costs, it is okay to use that resource according to this school of thought. So any area which is less than DE would mean that we have still not reached the optimum area of development. Okay, so we have not reached the optimum area of development if we are below DE or Kn. Similarly, if you are going beyond Kn, we are seeing that the costs are increasing more than benefits are now faltering. Benefits of the use of natural resources are slowly declining, whereas the costs are increasing faster. So this DE is what is required to be. So this cost benefit analysis, going by the London School of Thought given by David Pearce, says it is important whenever we use natural capital that we see that what is the optimum capital by using the cost benefit analysis. The third concept or the Sustainable Development Rules principle is given by Herman Daly. Herman Daly prescribes a set of principles to attain sustainable development. 3 principles to be specific. The first principle is the sustainable use of renewable resources requires that the consumption of these resources not to be greater than the rate at which resources regenerate. That is, we should not be consuming so much that the rate at which we are consuming is much more than the rate at which these resources are able to regenerate themselves. So, even if we are talking about renewable resources, the consumption should be such that we take into account the rate at which the resources are getting regenerated. Second, it says that the sustainable use of non-renewable resources. First, we have just seen the case of renewable resources. So, renewable resources we say should be such that the consumption should not be greater than the resource regeneration. The second principle says the sustainable use of non-renewable resources requires that the rate of consumption should not be greater than the pace at which renewable substitutes can be put into place. That is, if we are using non-renewable resources, we should be using only that much. The rate of use of non-renewables should be that much. That is equal to the rate at which we can substitute that non-renewable resource with a renewable resource. That is, it is saying that whatever the use you are doing, whether it is of renewable resource or it is of non-renewable resource, what we have to see is that ultimately the stock of capital remains constant. The consumption needs to be responsible. The renewable resources consumption should be such that we give enough time for the resources to regenerate themselves. Similarly, the consumption of non-renewable resources should be such that we are able to keep up with the pace of the use of non-renewable resources by renewable substitutes. Only if we do that, then we talk about sustainability. The third principle of DALI says that the sustainable pace of pollution and waste, because in this environment, as we have seen in the material balance approach, but the environment is not only giving us resources, environment is also acting as a sink of the waste which we are using. So the third principle is talking about that pollution and waste which we are feeding back in the environment. So it says that the sustainable pace of pollution and waste requires that the production should not be greater than the pace at which natural systems can absorb, recycle or neutralize them. That is, consumption, we have seen in the first two principles, what should be the rate of consumption of renewable and non-renewable resources. The third principle is talking about that how much should be the pollution, what should be the acceptable level of pollution and the waste. They say that in the production process, whatever pollution and waste are generated, that rate of pollution and waste generation should be less than the rate or the pace at which the natural system have the capacity to either absorb it, recycle it or neutralize it. So basically DALI is talking about responsible consumption and responsible production. He gave a very interesting pyramid which is called as a Herman Daly's pyramid. What he is saying is that ultimate, if you see this pyramid, it is divided in 4 ranges. One is the ultimate means. See, economics is all about means to end. What are end? End are the wants that we want. Whatever our needs are, whatever our ends are. See, the ultimate end is the well-being. Right? This ultimate end is brought from an ultimate mean. That is the most important mean to achieve this end is the natural capital. Just imagine a situation if we do not have water, if we do not have clean air. Can any kind of machine or social or human capital help us to achieve this well-being? No, because a huge amount of pollution will bring down this well-being. So if you see, the base is the broadest and the broadest base is given by natural capital. So Dali Herman says that the base of any well-being, which is the end, is achieved from the natural capital. So every economy has this natural capital, or the world has the natural capital in abundance. And this is the ultimate mean. Using this mean, that is the natural capital, we go to intermediate means and ends. So built up capital and human capital, the human capital which we say, or the man-made capital, is an intermediate mean. Something coming in between. We are using natural capital, which is the ultimate. Imagine early man living without machine. They were surviving only on natural capital. So we use this natural capital, go to the next level of mean. So these two becomes the mean. That is the natural capital plus the man-made capital. Natural capital is the ultimate mean. Built up capital is the intermediate mean. Okay. Then using both the means, we are achieving both the ends. What are the ends? One is the intermediate end. What is the intermediate end? Having skill and education, human capital. What is social capital? Interaction with the society. Okay, that is social capital. So everybody wants to live in a harmonious society. So that is a social capital. So intermediate end is a social capital and human capital. And when you achieve this social and human capital, you go to the ultimate end, which is well-being. So basically, Herman Daly in his pyramid is saying that the ultimate end of well-being is achieved by an ultimate mean of natural capital. Hence, it is important that we maintain this base. If this base becomes smaller, what will happen is that your built up and human capital will also become smaller, and smaller it becomes, lesser will be, the top of the pyramid, which is the ultimate end of well-being. So if we want to have higher well-being, we need to have a higher stock of natural capital. So let us do a quick recap of what we have done in this lecture. We have understood three types of principle. One was Hartwig-Solow rule, which talks about maintenance of sustainability by natural resource extraction and economic growth. We talked about David Pearce London School of Thought, and then we explained Daly's three rules of principles of sustainable human society. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much.